Mark Oliphant College Beta 12, the use of new media to engage with our community. In this, the first of two videos, we begin to describe the journey that Mark Oliphant College has been on and how, as part of that journey, we are using new media to engage with our community, to listen to our community, and that community is not only our parents but also our students. Mark Oliphant College was formed at the beginning of 2010, but its origins go back to 2006 with the announcement by the government that there would be 17 schools closed and 6 new schools to take their place. In the ensuing 4 years, there was an amazing amount of community consultation within our area, the Playford Council area, and the suburbs of Smithfield Plains, Davern Park, Andrews Farm and Munopara. There was also a significant amount of community conjecture about whether the new school would ever be built. Part of the community consultation involved the writing of an education brief, which actually outlines the aspirations and vision by the community for their new school. Key to those aspirations for our new school were that the students had access to ICT of the highest order. When that was first written, the concept was that they would be desktops. A lot changes in 4 years. There was also the architectural design of MOC. It was designed on the fact that there were always going to be 3 points of view, that you could look inside the classroom, that you could look outside the classroom into the open air and the grounds, and you could also look through inner walls into an inner learning common. So the concept was that it would be a very visually stimulating place in which would lend itself to new ways of teaching and learning. In 2009, there was a significant amount of pre-work and looking at what sort of digital technologies we've been involved with. So by the beginning of 2010, when the school began, and it began on all the old sites, and there was very much a sense of same old, or what's changed. Well, the first thing that changed was the concept that we'd be moving to laptops. And so the school began a rollout process and a commitment to a one-to-one laptop program throughout the entire college. We also were committed to gearing ourselves up for working in this new space as a new community, even though when we first started in 2010, all that had been laid were the slabs. What we then saw happen was the first of what we call adapting to the new ABC. This is some of Stephen Heppel's work, and the new ABCs are A, adapt, B, be brave, and C, be creative. So before we were even halfway through the year, we had to look at adapting because the first of the very, very powerful and new tablets was introduced, and that was iPads. And that caused us to rethink about would we all be a one-to-one laptop school or would we be iPad. By mid-2011, the school became totally and utterly one-to-one. That was that we had what were Apple Macs all the way through from year 5, 6 to year 12 and up to from reception to year 2, we had iPads, and in year 3, 4, we had a hybrid. As the school develops, we see that the tablets will continue their spread throughout the school, and we can eventually foresee, as far as you can, given what's already happened in 4 years, and then since the introduction of the iPad in 18 months, that we'll be going to a school that is totally tablet. The other thing that happened between 2006 and 2010 was the enormous growth in phone technology. The digital phone completely and utterly was rechanging itself, reinventing itself. And so were the plans that people were on. You could now get your emails on your phone. You could have access to some of the most important sites that people were starting to engage with, which were the social media sites, virtually for free. So in 2001, the new schools begin. We begin with this concept that we're going to be very, very powerful in the area of digital technology. We also begin knowing that we're in these terrible old buildings, we don't have uniforms yet, and the real school will really begin in 2011. We also had to deal with enormous rumours that the school would never ever begin. And so that led us to look at some of the ways we could try and talk with our community and have them come along with us. And the community was not only the parents, it was also the students, and at times it was even the staff. Towards the end of 2010, we engaged with a couple of major ideas. One was presented by our local mayor, Glenn Doherty, in that he explained how his school had kept in contact with its past scholars by using a Facebook site. And he suggested that that might be a way for us to connect, particularly in the world of trying to make community partnerships with some of the leading organisations, but also to look at whether we could connect with significant old scholars of Smithfield Plains High School. Then we also started to read the work of Juliet Heppel, yes, she is Professor Stephen Heppel's daughter, about how she had actually engaged with Facebook as a teaching medium in her classroom. At the beginning of 2011, before school went back and we still didn't have buildings to go into and we were constantly in fear that they were going to be delayed, we had already got halfway with the digital rollout, but we also knew that we still had at least another 4 months in the old buildings. 2 of our colleagues went to London to Learning Without Frontiers, at which they heard a whole variety of people speak, including Juliet Heppel, and including listening to the concept of the use of new media and how new media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or any of the other various sources, was something we couldn't turn our backs on. At the same time, as I explained in the second video, I was listening to the floods in Australia and hearing how the Ipswich City Council had engaged Facebook and used that and Twitter to inform residents of what were the evacuation plans, how could we actually look at them looking at their flood mitigation and getting out of the evacuation processes. And so that is how our school decided to embark on Facebook. We embarked in a very small way at the end of January, beginning of February 2011. The second video takes you through the whole journey and explains up until we produced that video, which was for the Adelaide Thinker in Residence, who was looking at new ways to engage with your community and asked us to produce that particular vidcast, which is now, in education terms, gone viral. Only in Education South Australia terms, that is. Since that time, we have seen the growth of another 5 pages and the number of people who actually engage with our